Okay, so we're going to finish up our fraction stuff with some worded fraction problems. So these are just the same sort of fraction questions we've been doing. It's just this time it's dressed up as, in an actual sentence with an actual sort of problem, as it were. And what we're going to do for each one, there's 9 questions. I'm going to put the question up. I shall put a little pause thing up. I want you to pause it. I want you to write out your working out and the answer. And when you're done, unpause it and see if it agrees with my answer. So pause the video and off you go. Okay, we've unpaused. So let's look at the question. Well, firstly, there are 200 people. That's going to be important. And they study either geography, history, or RE. So we've got geography, we've got history, or we've got RE, because I think I'm going to need that in a second. A quarter of the students study geography. 2/5 of the students study history. How many study RE? I think this is a straightforward fractions of amounts question. I mean, there are always usually more than one way that you can do a question. But in this case, I'm just going to do a straightforward fractions of amounts. So I'm going to find 1/4 of 200. Well, that means I need to divide it by 4. So 200 divided by 4 is 50. So there are 50 people doing geography. And then there are 2/5 of the students. So 2/5 of 200 doing history. Now that means I need to find 1/5 first of all. So I need to do 200 divided by 5. Oh, not equals, don't want any equals. But then I want 2/5, so I need to times that by 2. So I find 1/5 by dividing by 5 and then times it by 2. Well, how many 5s go into 200? Well, that will be 40. And then times that by 2 is 80. So 80 people do history. Now, if I want to know RE, then I need to do the total number, take away 80, take away 50. Now, let's say there are other ways that you could do this, but in this particular case, that's what I've done. Okay. The main thing is that you get to the right answer, which is 70. There are 70 people doing RE. Okay, and you should also find that if you added up all 3 of these answers, it should add up to 200, which it does. Okay, next one then. So again, read the question, press pause on the video, and when you've finished answering the question, unpause and see if it agrees with my answer. Off you go. And it's always worth giving them a go. Even if you get it wrong, just give it a go. Okay, I've unpaused. So let's see. Every member of a book club has read one of the following book series. They've only read one. So either they've read Harry Potter, yeah, or The Hunger Games, nah, or The Lord of the Rings. Frankly, it's far too long. There are 30 people in the club. That's going to be important. 2/3 have read The Hunger Games. 1/5 have read Harry Potter. What fraction of the club have read Lord of the Rings? I think this is a bit like the last question, or could be done like the last question. Again, there's more than one way you can do it, but I'm going to do it this way. So THG, The Hunger Games. Right, that will be 2/3 of the 30 people, which means I take 30, I divide by the bottom of the fraction, which is 3, and then I times it by the top of the fraction, which is 2, to get 2/3. Well, 30 divided by 3 is 10, times by 2 is 20, so 20 people did The Hunger Games. 1/5 have read Harry Potter. 1/5 of very, very good, top quality people there. 1/5 of the 30 then. So that would be divide by the bottom of the fraction, divide it into 5. How many 5s in 30? There are 6. Only 6 very clever people here that could manage Harry Potter. How many, or what fraction of the club read Lord of the Rings? Well, let's first of all find out how many people. So if we do 30, take away the 20 that read Hunger Games, take away the 6 that read Harry Potter, we're left with just 4 people. And so we want, The Lord of the Rings. And that was 4 out of the 30. Now, in a question like this, we really want to give our answer in its simplest form. So I need to simplify this a bit. I can't divide both of them by 4, but I can divide both of them by 2. So let's do that. So divide that by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So 2/15 would be the ideal answer there that did the Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So question 3 then. Okay, again, read the question, press pause on the video, unpause it when you're done. It even says here, answer in your simplest form. So off you go. We have unpaused. There are 500 people at a wedding who either know the bride or groom. They definitely don't know both. 260 people know the bride. I wonder how many people know the groom. In that case, how many people know the groom? Well, that'll be 500. Take away the 260. When I do that, I am left with 240. So those are the people that know the groom. But what fraction of the people know the groom? Well, that's 240 out of 500, but it wants it in its simplest form. So we're going to simplify it. Well, the first thing we're going to do, I think, is we're going to divide by 10. There's that extra 0 on the top and the bottom there that I don't need. So let's divide it by 10. So 24 out of 50. That's already much simpler. Then I could divide it by 2. Let's divide by 2, I think, because I can. Both of those numbers will divide by 2. So 24 divided by 2 is 12. 50 divided by 2 is 25. Now, nothing divides 12 and 25, so that is my final answer. 12 out of 25. Okay, so first of all, I found out how many, put it as a fraction out of the total, and then just simplified it as I could. Whatever you do to the top of the fraction, you must do to the bottom. Right, question 4. Read the question, press pause. You know the drill by now. Off you go. We've unpaused. Laura is 5/8 of the way round her sponsored walk. It's taken her 1 hour and 40 minutes to do what? To do the walk. Yeah, that's a weird sentence, isn't it? It has taken her 1 hour and 40 minutes to do the walk. I'm going to add that onto the end because it really annoys me that it's not there. How much longer will she need to walk for? Right. So, well, firstly, what fraction of the walk, we could work out, say, what fraction of the walk she's done, and then see how much time is left. How about we actually do work out what fraction she's still got to do first of all. So now, if you notice, I've done 8 out of 8. Well, 5/8 she's done, so 8 out of 8 would be the full walk, wouldn't it? That's like the whole of the walk. Take away 5/8, I'm left with 3/8 left to do. Then I need to find 3/8 of this time. Now, I can't work in hours and minutes. I need to have that really is either an hour in decimals, which is frankly a bit odd, or I need to have it just in minutes, which is what I'm going to do. 1 hour and 40 minutes, or mins. Well, 1 hour is 60 minutes. Let's add that to the other 40. That's 100 minutes. So we need to find then what is 3/8 of 100 minutes. So 3/8 of 100 means I've got to do 100 divided by 8. I might use a calculator for that, but we'll see. And then times it by 3. Now you could do 100 divided by 8. In fact, why don't we do that? Let's practice our bus stop here. I'm not going to use a calculator. Let's do 100 divided by 8. 8's into 1 doesn't go, so we carry that 1 across. 8's into 10 goes once with 2 bits left over. 8's into 20, well, that goes twice because 2 8's is 16, which means there are 4 bits left over. I'm going to carry the 4 across and put in the 0 as the placeholders. 8's into 40 goes 5 times. So there's 12.5 minutes. So that's 100 divided by 8, and I'm going to times that by 3, which is 37.5 minutes left to go, or 37 minutes, 30 seconds. However you want to write it, that is the answer, okay? 37.5. Yeah, 37.5 minutes left to do. Good for Laura. I wonder what charity she's raising money for. Number 5. Read the question carefully. And yeah, just pause the video. Really do give this one a go. It might be a case of about working out if you bought a whole cup, how much it would be. Just a hint, just saying. It might be about that, maybe it isn't, but it might be about finding how much a whole cup would cost. Anyway, pause and do the question. So we've unpaused because you've already done it because you found it really easy, right? Now the smaller cup is 3/5 of a cup, and the larger size is 5/6 of a cup. A small one costs 60p, and a large one costs 90p. So let's think about this small one. With the small one, 3/5 of a cup equals 60 pence. Well, how about if I want to find what a whole cup is? So that would be 5/5, right? Okay, I'm going to just get the eraser around, just give myself a little bit more space. Now to do that, if I know 1/5, I can find 5/5. Or I wonder if you did it that way. So 1/5. If 3/5 is 60, to go to 1/5, well, I've got to divide it by 3. I don't want 3 of them, I only want 1 of them. So let's divide it by 3. That would be 20 pence. And then, of course, I can find 5/5, which is a whole cup. If I know 1/5, well, if I times it by 5, I've got 5/5, which is 100 pence, or you might write it as £1. Okay, right, well, let's try that with the larger one as well. Now, that says here that 5/6. I'm going to write this as a ratio, actually. I don't know why I did an equal sign in of a cup. But let's do it as a ratio. 5/6 is the same as 90p. Well, let's first of all find 1/6. Well, 5 of them are 90p. If I divide it by 5, I get 1/6. How many 5s in 90? Well, that's 18. So 1/6 is 18. Now, what I want to know is what would a whole cup be? So 6/6, which is like a tongue twister. Well, if I know what one of them is, if I times it by 6, I get 6 of them. Right, 6/8 are 48. 6 times 10 is 60. Add those together and you get 108. So, this one, if I had to get a whole cup, it would cost me £1. This one would cost me £1.08, or 108 pence. So, smaller is better value because it would cost you less, in theory, to buy a whole cup, using the small size. Yep, so the small one is the best value. So what did I do? I found 1/5 and then sort of went back up to 5/5. This one, I had 5/6, so I went down to 1/6 and then back up to 6/6. Just found a whole cup in each case. Okay, next question. Tricky one, that one, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Apparently I can't speak. Wasn't it? Yes, it was. Right, number 6. Pause the video. Off you go. Okay, we've unpaused. Let's go. A pet show. There are dogs, cats, and rabbits. Well, if the cats are there for a long time, there might be less rabbits. There are 480 contestants altogether. Half of the contestants are cats. 1/6 of the I've just got to imagine imagining that these cats have brought their pets along to this show. Anyway, amused me. Half of the contestants are cats. 1/6 of the contestants are rabbits. How many dogs are there? So first of all, we need half of 480. That means I've got to divide it by 2. There are 240 cats. The rabbits, well, there's 1/6 of them are rabbits, so that's 1/6 of 480. Well, to do that, you've got to divide it by 6. How many 6s in 480? That would be 80. So you found out that there were 80 rabbits. So if we do 480, take away the 240 cats, take away the 80 rabbits, that would be, so 240 take another is 160 dogs. Right, so that's the first bit done. There are 160. But what fraction of the contestants are dogs? Ooh, shaggy. 160 out of 480. So that would be the same as 16 out of 48, because I'm going to divide by 10 there. Then what could we divide by? Oh, I could divide that by 4. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. 48 divided by 4 is, he says, quickly working out, 12. Oh, I could divide by 4 again. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 1/3 of them are dogs. Yeah, awesome. You're doing well at this, aren't you? You're great. You're amazing. Number 7. Pause the video. Off you go. We are unpaused. Jake lives 2.5 miles from school. He decides to walk to the shop on his way home. The shop is 1 3/8 of a mile from school. What is the shortest possible distance from the shop to his home? Right. Okay. Because I bet you're thinking like the shop's on his way home, but it might not be. Because look, that might be school. That might be the shop. And then that might be home. Now that would mean that when he goes from the school to the shop, he's only got a little bit to go home if it's in a straight line. But let's imagine that actually it's this way round. How about school is here, and weirdly, the shop is this side. So he goes to the shop and then has to go home, which is all the way over here somewhere. Yeah, so that could be the case, which is why this is going to give you the shortest distance. This one's going to give you the longest. Now, shop to school. So if he goes from the school to the shop's 1 3/8 of a mile. It's like a mixed number there. And then Jake lives 2 1/3 miles. So from the school, if we go all the way home, that's 2 1/3. Right, so in which case, what's the missing distance between the shop and home? Well, we need to do the whole distance, 2 1/3, take away 1 3/8. Right, 2 1/3, take away 1 3/8 equals, well, I would always change these into, improper fractions first. And to do that, you multiply the bottoms and you add the tops. 2 lots of 3 is 6. Add the 1 is 7. So that is the same as 7/3. 1 times 8 is 8. Add the 3, we get 11. So that's 11/8. So it's the same as taking 7/3, taking away 11/8, which I'm going to do up here because there's more space. Take away 11/8. Well, first things first, let's find some equivalent fractions. So let's multiply together the bottoms. So that's 24, 3/8 of 24. Then cross multiply. So 8 times the 7 is 56. And 3 times the 11 is 33. Well done if you got that far. 56 take away 33 leaves 23 out of 24. And that can't be simplified. So that is my answer. 23 out of 24 miles. So less than a mile, just under a mile home. But what if it's this way? So on this one, he's got to travel 1 3/8, because that's how far it is to the shop. He then has to travel all the way home, which is 2 1/3. So actually this time, we need to do 2 1/3 plus 1 3/8. So this time we need to add the fractions. So we have to do 7 1/3 plus... Oh, hang on a minute. I've got this wrong, haven't I? I have got this wrong, and I'll show you why. Let me just rub that out. Because, look, Jake lives 2/3 of a mile from school, and he decides to walk to the shop on the way home. Now, if I go to the pen, so he's walked to the shop. Now that's 1 3/8. But actually, he then needs to first of all walk back to the school, which is also 1 3/8, and then from the school to home, which is the 2 1/3. So if we change, we've already changed these fractions, haven't we, into mixed numbers. Not mixed number, improper fractions, so top-heavy fractions. This time we're going to add 2 1/3 to 1 3/8, but then also another 1 3/8. Yeah? Now, what did we find these were? These were the same as 7 1/3 7/3, sorry, plus 11/8, and then we've got to add another lot of 11/8. Now, the hard work here has already been done for us up here, hasn't it? Because we know that 7/3 is the same as 56 over 24. And 11/8 we found was the same as 33 over 24. And we've got two of those. And it's all three of those added together. So we've got to do 56 plus 33 plus another 33 is 122. Tricky question, this. Out of 24. Now, if you got that far, I mean, just give yourself an amazing pat on the back. If you didn't, but you've managed to follow what I've done, then that's also awesome. You might have changed it back into a mixed number, which would be how many 24s go into 122? Well, that would be 5. And 5 lots of 24 is 120, which means there are 2 bits left over. So it's 2 24ths. Or, sorry, it's got a little bit scrappy, this, hasn't it? So the answer is 5 and 2 24ths. Or, if you simplified it, 5, that would be 1/12, wouldn't it? Because 2 24ths is the same as 1/12. Whew, a lot of work, that one. Let's move on to number 8. Jim and Ben are sharing a cake. There's 5/6 of the cake left. Jim gets double the amount of cake that Ben gets. What fraction of the whole cake did Jim get? Okay. Well, let's think about this. We got Jim and we get Ben. If we think about this as a ratio, Jim is getting 2 parts to every 1 part that Ben gets twice as much. So what we need to do is take the 5/6 of the cake that are left and divide it by 3. We need to divide it into 3 parts. Now, when we're doing this, we use the KFC, don't we? Keep, flip, change is a quick way of doing this. So 5/6 times by, and we're going to flip that second fraction just to make it a bit easier. Now, 5 times 1 is 5, 6 times 3 is 18. So that is like 1 share. So what fraction of the whole cake did Jim get? Well, Jim is going to get 2 lots, isn't he? Because we've got 2 to 1. Now we know that 1 part is 5 out of 18. That means that Jim is going to get double that, which is 10 out of 18. So Jim gets 10/18, or if you simplified it, both of those divide by 2. So 5/9. And I'll accept either of those because it didn't say to simplify it, and I think that's quite tricky. Right, last one then. Oh, I didn't say pause for that one, did I? Silly me. Well, presumably you knew to pause. Okay, number 9. Pause this one. Unpaused. Right, let's go really quick then. So Dad gives some money to his 2 sons, Bob and Geoff. Bob gets 4/7 of the money and receives £84. How much did his dad give out in total? Well, 4/7 is the same as 84. Well, let's find out what 1/7 is. Now, to do that, I've got to divide it by 4. I don't want 4/7, I want 1/7. 4s into 84 is 21. Then I can find out what the total was. I can find out the 7/7, because that would be all of it, all the fractions, all the bits, all 7 of them, times by 7. Well, 21 times by 7 is 147, apparently. Okay, so how much did he give out in total? He gave 147. You might have done it another way, but that's the way I did it. How much did Geoff receive? Well, 147. Take away 84. We'll leave the final answer, which is £63. Good for Geoff. Well done. I wonder why he likes Bob so much more than Geoff. We'll never know. Anyway, well done. I shall see you next time. Goodbye.